Before I dive into my story, I want to acknowledge that some of you might find my experiences hard to believe. Paranormal activities can be difficult to accept, especially if you've never encountered them yourself. But I assure you, everything I'm about to share is true and happened to me directly. So, sit back, open your mind, and join me as I recount the most chilling summer of my life. I've had paranormal experiences since I was young, though I never paid them much attention. But everything changed when I turned 16. My sister had just given birth to her first child and was living with her husband, a medical doctor, in a nearby town. Since I had just finished my final exams and summer was approaching, my mother thought it would be a good idea for me to stay with my sister. Her husband worked the night shift, leaving her alone with the baby. My sister was looking to rent a bigger house since they were in the process of building their own. That evening, my sister was at our home when her husband came to pick her up, along with me. The next day, we went to see a house for rent. Despite my youth, I was surprised at how cheap the rent was for such a huge, brand-new house. There were still houses under construction in the neighborhood. The house on the right side was unfinished, and on the left, there was a gap between it and the neighbor's house, with a road running in front and a beautiful man-made lake on the other side. I describe the location because it's essential to understand the story. There were no known deaths or other incidents in the area. My sister asked the owner why they were leaving such a beautiful location, and he explained that they wanted to be closer to his sick mother. My sister's family was thrilled with their find. A few days later, we moved into the new house. It had 6 bedrooms, so I got a nice room next to the baby's room and beside the master bedroom. All the rooms opened into a big hallway. A full bathroom was located near the door that led to the spacious yard in front of the house. Across from the full bathroom was a large door that opened to the living and dining rooms. These details will become important later in the story. For the first couple of days, we were all at home, and nothing unusual happened. The only thing I noticed was an overwhelming sense of sadness. I chalked it up to missing my own home or feeling disappointed that my summer plans had changed. A couple of weeks later, my sister started going to work with her husband, leaving me alone with my cute little nephew. One evening, while watching TV with the baby close by in case he woke up, I heard vague voices calling my name, both men and women. The voices were like whispers in my ear. I was scared and didn't like it, but I convinced myself it was just my imagination or sounds traveling from the quiet neighborhood. The whispers didn't stop, though. Every night, I heard those eerie voices. Strangely, I never mentioned it to my sister. Perhaps I didn't want to worry her, or maybe I was trying to convince myself that it was all in my head. One day, I went to the mall and saw a plush doll that I thought my nephew would love, so I bought it for him. That night, I slept in the baby's room and placed the doll in his jumper. In the middle of the night, I woke up to the sound of cartoony noises and laughter. When I opened my eyes, I saw the jumper moving on its own. I was terrified and prayed the baby wouldn't wake up because I had no idea what to do. Every night, I felt someone playing with my hair, gently touching the top of my head. I was so scared that I couldn't bring myself to come out from under the blanket. Sometimes, we'd wake up in the morning to find all the doors, even the gate door, wide open. For some reason, no one wanted to talk about it. I was deeply unhappy being there. One evening, it was raining hard, and my sister asked me to go out for dinner. I agreed, and we got ready. I was holding my nephew and waiting for my sister to come out of the restroom so we could leave. I saw her come out of the restroom and turn into the hallway. I immediately followed her, but to my surprise, she wasn't there. I thought she might have gone into one of the bedrooms, but when I checked the first one, she wasn't there. As I moved to check the second bedroom, my sister suddenly emerged from the restroom in a different outfit. I screamed and told her I had just seen her come out of the restroom in a different outfit. My sister panicked and ran outside, asking me to go to the kitchen and lock the door that led to the backyard. I refused and ran out after her, leaving the backyard unlocked. We stood outside until all the stores were closed before coming back. That night, I finally told my sister about my experiences and said I wanted to leave. The next day, I left. When my mother saw me, she asked what had happened. I told her about my experiences, but she immediately dismissed them. That night, my sister stayed at the house alone. At 4 a.m., she arrived at our house. When my parents asked why she was there so early, she said that she had woken up and seen a few very short people walking around and dancing. She pretended to be asleep, and as soon as they were gone, she grabbed the baby and drove to our house. My mother dismissed her story as well but decided to stay with her for a week. To our surprise, she came home at 2 a.m., leaving my sister and the baby behind. She was terrified and begged my father and me to go back with her because she was worried about my sister and the baby. She explained that she had woken up a little past midnight and decided to have tea in the front yard. As soon as she sat down, my sister came after her and asked if she couldn't sleep. My mother replied that she couldn't. Then my sister said, "Hey, Mom, I want to show you something." She passed through the yard, opened the gate, and asked my mother to follow her. My mother warned her not to go out because it was too late and the area was isolated, but my sister laughed and assured her it was okay. My mother put her tea down and followed her. When she reached the front gate, she saw my sister crossing the road toward the lake. As my sister reached the lake, she looked back and signaled for my mother to follow her. My mother hesitated, recalling the paranormal activities I had told her about. She watched in horror as my sister walked onto the water. Terrified, she grabbed the car keys and left. When we returned to the house, the gate was open. This time, my mother was responsible for it. After that night, my sister packed up, and they left, never looking back. Have you ever had an experience you just couldn't explain? Do you think you know what might have been happening in that house? I'd love to hear your thoughts and any similar experiences you might have had. Share them in the comments below.